2026 marks 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the creation of a new nation dedicated to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. America's faced many challenges and changes over the past 250 years, and it gives each generation a great story to tell and a rich history to explore. Here in Caldwell County, we have that same rich history and great stories to tell. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you some of the history of Caldwell County and hear from many of our residents who have great stories to tell.
Welcome in today. I'm Eric Stafford, and part of American 250, we're talking to local citizens about, their lives here in Lenoir and in Caldwell County, and so we're talking about those things. And here with me today, gracious enough to join me, is Bill Berry, and who's been a citizen for, you said, since 1962.
That's right.
And what people like to say, what I've always heard is, I wasn't born in Caldwell County, but I got here as quick as I could.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about it. Well, that's okay. That's what we want to know. But how did you come to Caldwell County? What happened?
We're from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. My wife Sharon and I.
Oh, okay.
And I went to school at the University of Tennessee. And back then, Broyhill was starting an engineering department headed by Jack Buss. You may know Betty Buss.
Yeah, I grew up with their sons.
Very good then.
So, yeah.
Well, Jack Buss hired me as a mechanical engineer out of the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And Beef Johnson, and I can't remember whether it was Jim Broyhill he used to interview, or I can't remember the name of the other fellow. But anyway, they interviewed in the colleges, and I was graduating, and in 1961, jobs were sort of scarce.
Yeah.
I think the first offer I had was with Boeing in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
Didn't even know me. I sent them a resume. They sent me a job offer and all of this. I thought, Sharon, we don't want to move to Seattle, Washington, for God's sake. And I had this offer. We really liked Lenoir. We got married when I was right out of college.
Yeah.
And we drove over to Blowing Rock on our honeymoon. And I had promised Broyhill I would come down for an interview. So while we were there, we said, Sharon, let's go check out Lenoir. So I called and got an interview and came down. We came down and we spent the night at the old Carlheim Hotel, which was long gone.
It was uptown here, wasn't it?
It was the best restaurant in town at the time. We used to eat there on Sundays occasionally. So anyway, long story short, we ended up at Broyhill Furniture, and I ended up as an engineer. Spent most of my career there. Worked at, I was the plant manager at Harper Furniture for a long time. Later moved to Lenoir Furniture Corporation. Harper Furniture, the factory's still there. It's just down at the end of the street. You see their old warehouse.
Yeah.
Did a lot of engineering work, plant layouts, things like that before I got into management. And we went from there. Something funny I like to tell. Well, there's a lot of funny stories I could tell.
Well, that's okay. We like funny stories.
Well, maybe they were funny to us at the time. We were doing an engineering project in the old glue room, and I liked to, there's a guy down there named J.C. Pilkington, and he used to like to show me his first paycheck. And you'd go by and he said, Bill, you and Jim come over here. He said, I don't know what y'all make. Let me show you my first paycheck. 19, whatever it was, depression.
Oh, wow.
20 cents an hour.
Oh.
He'd say, and then he'd go on with that. I thought, well, that's interesting. Then he said, see that boy over there? You need to talk to him. Boy on the hot press. Now, a hot press is something that you didn't want to work in a factory. It's where they made the plywood.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so it was hot and sweaty. It was 10 openers, and everybody wore sweatshirts or no shirt because it was so hot.
Yeah.
Or not sweatshirts, undershirts.
Yeah.
And he said, come over here. Now I went over there and he says, you know where Smith Crossroads is? I said, yeah. I said, you know where that big circle is? Yeah, the traffic. He said, yep. I said, did you know that you can go anywhere in the world from there? That's what he wanted to tell me. So, okay.
You can't argue with that. You could go anywhere.
Yeah. Later on, when I moved to Lenoir Furniture Corporation as a plant engineer there before I became the plant manager. And they like to move you around. And Lenore Furniture Corporation was a great place to work, and I had done most of the work there. And the engineering work, the layout work, conveyors, things like that, and designed some equipment. But I bought a piece of equipment, and it was sort of an edge sander, but it was a feed-through thing. It wasn't like the big ones they had. It was a little small one to work things with. And sure enough, it froze up. One of the pulleys had froze up. So the guy that sold it, he's passed away now, came by one Saturday and said, "Bill, would you help me get that pulley?" He says, "My guy's off on something else." I said, "Sure." So we go up there, and we're sitting there, got the belts off, and we're sitting there looking at that pulley. And we're sitting there, it's froze. How are we going to get this off? We could do we heat part of, we weren't mechanics, but engineers drive the train. They don't go out there and So we were sitting there thinking about that, and an old boy named Wendy Green came by. He kept looking at me. He said, "Where'd you boys go to school?" Howard said, "Well, I went to North Carolina State." I said, "Engineer, huh?" "Yeah." I said, "I went to the University of Tennessee." He said, "Oh, engineer, huh?" "Okay." Said, "What y'all doing?" Says, "Well, we sit here studying." Says, "Looks like to me all y'all's knowledge done run head on into that pulley."
And then what you want to do?
We finally found the weekend manager, maintenance guy. He came up, got onto some tools. We had to knock the thing. We got it done.
You got it going.
But our 30-minute, 1 hour
studying it
turned out to be a 4-hour job.
Oh wow! But that brings up a question. Yeah. What did you do as an engineer at a furniture company?
Well, as a mechanical type engineer, my degree is industrial engineering. We did the plant layouts and looked for ways. To tell you, we put in the first conveyorized rough mill at Lenore Furniture Corporation and at Harper Furniture.
Oh, okay.
And that's and now there's companies that do this, but instead of the cut-off man cutting the lumber off, stacking it on a shop truck, rolling it to a rip saw guy to rip thing, we developed, and Jack Buss did a great job with his designs, and Atwell Sudworth, a conveyor that would take these links boards down to the different rip saws. And he set up a system of electric eyes and kickers that would kick off the link that rip saw was working on. And don't ask me how he did it, but it had to do with timing and electric cells. When one piece would go by, the photocell would read, and then it was timed for it to, say, the 20-inch length would kick off at the saw doing that. The 40-inch would that saw, and the 6-foot length would kick off at the last saw. And they would slide down the slide to the rip saw guy, instead of walking over and getting that shop truck and pulling it in, having to count pieces, it slid down to him. They could pick it up and just cut the defects out. Overhead, we had a scrap conveyor that we put in, that for any scraps were threw up to it, they went back to a little scrap saw, and he would look at those pieces of lumber and say, "Well, I can get a good piece out of this one." And he cut good corner blocks, just little things, corner blocks, drawer guides, stuff like that, out of the scrap, anything he could get out of it. And right below the man was another conveyor that the scrap that wasn't good, he'd throw in it, he'd go to the hog, grind up the chips, feed them to the boiler.
Yeah, but that's amazing, and to think about how it went from one, you talk about using photo sensors and stuff like that to get it to do it, but people wouldn't even know where to start today with doing that kind of technology. Right. So it's kind of crazy.
In the early 70s, we were always trying to be ahead mechanically, or not, I guess mechanically or engineering-wise.
Yeah.
They decided that you could defect cut a piece of lumber by marking it on a board and letting a computer take these links that you had and how clear they had to be. Today, that would all be done with AI. I mean, they could do it like that. But back then, we didn't know how to do it. And there was a committee of us, several of us, trying to determine how the best way to do that. And Atwell Sudworth, who ran our machine shop and overall all of that at the Central Engineering, looked at that, and you know what a drafting machine is? Got
Yeah.
2 elbows and 90 degrees, and you can pull it anywhere you want. Well, Atwell figured out he could put a distributor cap here and read electronically where that position was from a reference point.
Oh, okay.
Now Atwell was just a good old maintenance guy that learned everything in the Navy and was the smartest man I think I ever knew about things like that. And sure enough, we would sit there and we could mark a board, 4 corners, and it would. IBM was working with us.
Yeah.
And we ended up with good results. We put it in the old. It's occasional one now. I think it was Lenore Chair 4 then, but anyway, we went down there at night, and I was over the night thing, and we would cut lumber, cut bills, similar to, and we never could get enough improvement and yield, never could, that the old boy on the cutoff saw who had done it 20 or 30 years could sit there and look at that board and in his head figure out what was good.
Yeah, he knew.
We could beat him. If you could just beat him 1%, you thought you could pay for everything.
Yeah.
But the cost was astronomical to do it in one plant.
Yeah.
And then if you had tried to tie 4 plants together back then, it was almost impossible because it didn't have Wi-Fi, you didn't have electronic things. That
Yeah, you didn't have a way to network it.
Big wires had to
Yeah.
run cables, and so we dropped the project. But it was a good.
But you were ahead of your time. You were thinking what they're doing now.
And today they do that.
Yeah, they do that. We toured Bernhardt just like a year ago, and they had like the leather, the cowhide.
Yeah.
You know, they had the leather, and the computer instantly picked out every
defect.
scrap of piece it could use of that
Right.
leather and drew the design to fit that cowhide,
Right.
and then cut it with laser.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Isn't that amazing now?
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's like, but you guys were working towards that. You were trying to figure out how to save that lumber and how to get the most out of it.
Yeah, your lumber cost in a factory back then was about, well, the total material cost was about 40%. Your lumber cost was probably half of it. So, that was a big savings if you could save just a small amount. Like I said, if you could increase yield 1%.
Yeah. Now, because I grew up here, I'm from here, I've never left, so I've been here the whole time. Yeah. But I'm 58, and I remember being a kid, riding my bike, and a lady stopped me on Harper Avenue and said, "Young man," and I was like, "Yeah." She was yelling out her car window. Yeah. She says, "Young man, how do I get to the Lenore Furniture Market?" And I'm like, because we're on Harper, and that's 320. It was Blowing Rock Boulevard.
Right.
I was like trying to explain to her how. Well, you cut right here at Hospital Avenue, because that's where I grew up. And anyway, but she didn't say Lenore. She said Lenoir.
Lenoir.
Lenoir. How do you get to the Lenoir Furniture Factory or Furniture Market? And so that makes me ask the question, because I was young then. I remember when the J.E. Broyhill Civic Center was Fairfield Chair's showroom.
That's right.
When I was growing up, and then it was just those front buildings, the architectural feature, but. What was the Lenore Furniture Market like? What was that like compared to High Point and all of that?
The furniture factories in Lenore were large enough and drew enough people. They could have a furniture market here that coincided with the High Point market. And I remember Broyhill would rent the old Green Park Hotel out for guests. Yeah. And have huge. Dining every night for the market guests. Yeah. And they would come down and go through our showroom just like it was a High Point. It was almost like the High Point market. Yeah. And therefore, Fairfield Chair had a showroom for the same reason, and I guess Bernhardt's did too. I don't remember my timeline gets a little off sometimes.
That's all right. Mine too.
Yeah, and but anyway, that's the part I remember is. I'll tell you something funny. Now when I went to work at Burl Hill, their office was on Oak Street. The old building on Oak Street. It was sort of across from City Flower and Feed. And I remember Bynum's little restaurant there on the corner, and our mechanical engineering department was in the alley behind City Flower and Feed. But so they built the new Burl Hill office. That was huge. That was big.
Yeah,
it was really a big thing, and they had these big pools out front with these beautiful lights.
Yeah, and fountains going.
And
Yeah.
all. And I had a friend from high school that I hadn't seen since, well, a couple of times in college I'd met him. And he had a furniture store in Knoxville. And then he was a buyer for a Knoxville syndicate. So I had no clue that he would be in Lenoir. So he and his wife and their 2 children had came to the furniture market in Lenoir on their way to High Point. And so we got to meet again and renew old acquaintances. But I'd known him since the 4th grade.
Oh,
and
man.
And our parents had both moved to Oak Ridge at about the same time when the atomic energy plant was wide open and they were hiring anybody. But anyway, the story that gets sort of funny. He said, Bill, he said, you won't believe what happened to us yesterday. And I said, what? He said, I was walking down the Carol and I and the 2 kids, and says our children both fell into the pool looking at it. I had to pull them out and get them right. That was.
But I remember driving by that office and seeing the different colored lights. I mean, there would be like a blue one, a green one, a red one, and different pools going, and seeing those just riding by at night just. And there wasn't, it's kind of developed a little bit out towards that part of town now. You got other buildings, but it was just it was just there by itself. There wasn't a lot out that way.
Well, there wasn't an I-40 coming. Well, it did come by, I guess, to Morganton. But when we would go to Oak Ridge to go home, the shortest route, we had 2 routes. We could go to Asheville and then Marshall and Hot Springs, Newport, finally cut over on a portion of I-40 to go in a 4.5-hour trip. Yeah. And now that I-40 is there all the way through, except when they have landslides. It's a 3.5-hour trip.
Oh, okay.
Saved an hour ago. The other way was to come through Johnson City and come across to Elizabeth and 321 around Watauga. Yeah. That first time I drove that road, I swear, those curves, I met myself twice.
I wouldn't doubt it. I have a granddaughter that was born in Johnson City, and my wife had gone up there to witness the birth, to be there, and so she was there, and she called me driving back, and it had iced, and she was driving those roads in the ice, and I was like, oh God. It's because it's very curvy road. But you talk about Oak Ridge. Now, you were talking about it being a nuclear plant.
Right, yeah.
And my grandfather was an electrician at that nuclear plant from here. Yeah. So my family moved from here to Oak Ridge for a while. And or my grandparents and my mom and her sister.
I run into people a lot that said when they found out I was from Oak Ridge. Yeah. I grew up there. Moved there in 1944. I was a kid. World War II was at its height, I guess. Yeah. And we meet people whose fathers or whose relatives worked there. I worked there in the summers. When I was in school as an engineering student in the summers, I worked at the.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Why would you, when you got a nuclear plant close to home, why would you leave?
I worked in the gaseous diffusion plant where they converted uranium gas into fissionable uranium, 235.
Wow.
To 238. And of course, I was at the time studying chemical engineering, so it was a good job.
Oh, yeah.
And it expected to work there after I graduated. Yeah. So a couple of times I had to drop out of school for work for money and pay some more, this, that, and the other, and afford to go back. I worked one time for an architect for 6 months, and then worked for him part-time while I was in my last year of school. But anyway, just growing up in Oak Ridge was like, I guess, growing up on an Army base. They had 8 gates around it. You had to have a badge to get in and out of the city. I remember when we moved there, and this is, if I don't get it right, nobody will know. when we moved there, we came from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and I was 7 years old, and we parked outside the gate. We got there early in the morning. A friend of my dad's drove us up in the car and followed the van, the moving van, and we sit in the car. And it was in March, and we sit out there almost all day waiting for Dad to get housing arranged and signed up and get my mother a badge.
Yeah.
And even the children, if you were 12 years old, had to wear a badge, and you wore it everywhere you were in Oak Ridge. You had a badge.
Wow.
Just like the guys have the lanyards now with the thing. You wore a clip-on badge. And at the plant, the badges had, if you worked there, they had a little gold strip where they would take them every month and measure, see how much radiation you had accumulated.
Oh, no.
If you had accumulated.
Wow.
I mean, some guys were working and stuff that
we're a lot closer to it.
Yeah, I wasn't. And of course, I was more or less working in an office doing calculations and drawings and things. But they wouldn't let us go. They wouldn't let us get near that stuff. They knew we'd mess it up.
It's afraid you might blow the place up or something.
That's right. But
that's interesting to me. I mean, it's weird that we share that, but that's weird.
It's interesting that after I finally graduated and Sharon and I got married, they started closing the gaseous diffusion plant and the other plants in Oak Ridge because they didn't need that much anymore. They had opened one in Paducah, Kentucky, and one in Sanford, Washington, and one in Portsmouth, Ohio. And those old plants weren't as efficient. So they were, in fact, the plant I worked at, the building was a 1 mile U, where you put the raw material in here, it comes out the other end. 1 mile around it. And it's on the ground now. It's all been, and in fact, I read in the local paper this week that the government had finally got all of that land, or 16,000 acres of it, cleared from radiation, from contamination, and had turned it over to the city of Oak Ridge for an industrial park.
Oh, okay.
But it was something that it was full of, what was it, PCBs, it was full of asbestos, those plants. In the 40s, that's all you had to be.
That's what I was,
But anyway, it's on the ground. I didn't mean to have this as a Chamber of Commerce meeting.
I know, but that's okay. That's okay.
It's really interesting to have grown up there.
Well, and there's a lot of folks from here that worked in that, but we're talking about, just history in general now. What was life like, for you and Sharon when you got here? What was that like?
When we got here?
Yeah, when you got here, what was that like?
Well, first of all, you don't know anybody except a few people at work.
Yeah.
But we had a fantastic newcomers club. I can't remember her first name, but Wilmer Rohr and his wife ran it, or were in charge of it. And they had a meeting, a party, at the Optimist Club where the ballpark is down there.
Yeah.
In that old Optimist
Yeah, in the
they
house.
They had something there for newcomers every week or every month. And I think it was bridge once a month, and then they had a little social get-together on with a dancing or something. But you met all the newcomers there, and you met a lot of people like they'd just moved here for Southern Bell, some people for salesmen, from managers and things like that, and people that were moving into Lenore, doctors, as Lenore was just starting to grow.
Yeah.
And they kept that up for a long time, up into the 70s, and maybe still the same two people ran it. And you made quick, close friends
Yeah.
that way, because it was a hard city to get to know people in, because you were working in a furniture factory, so you knew some of the sales managers and some of the people like that.
You just knew
some
the
of the
people
other
in your-
engineering people, some of
Yeah.
the people in the plants. But you did to get to know people who would be close friends
Yeah.
that you would go out to eat with and things like that. It took a while, but it didn't take long. I said it took a while, but it really didn't take long in the
Yeah.
scheme of things. And the one thing you had to do, if you were a newcomer, you had to learn to play bridge, because that's what that
okay.
newcomers club started at, and they had a bridge thing, and I knew a little bit about it. My wife didn't know anything about bridge, so she bought an auto bridge thing, which they used to have. It's probably on a computer now,
Yeah.
but in which dealt hands, and you had to bid them and play them
okay.
and cover and see if you were doing. And she studied that thing for a month, I guess, and we faked our way through it.
Yeah.
But it was funny. People would play that didn't play bridge, but there'd always have to be a partner, somebody there who was good, and they'd take over the bidding real quick
Yeah.
when they saw the other person really didn't know
What was going on?
or know what her hand didn't know. Oh, points? What, count points? What's that?
Yeah.
Said, I got 13 cards. Is that 13 points?
No.
Anyway, it was.
But that's a good social interactivity for you guys to have done.
It really was. And then you just grew into Lenore.
Yeah.
I wouldn't move for
Yeah.
anything now. We found out it was just close to perfect, because you were the same distance from home, same distance to the beach. You had Charlotte right here. We used to go to concerts in Charlotte all the time.
Yeah.
And the mountains, you're in the mountains. So the summers you could drive to Blowing Rock on weekends, or
Yeah.
first thing we did. Another story. Rooster Bush had a used car lot on the old Smith Crossroads traffic circle. I don't know if you remember it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I do.
And there was Smith Motel. What was it? Smith Crossroads Motel.
That was Crossroads
and
Motel.
then the restaurant up there on the hill on
Yeah.
the right. I can't remember the name of it. But Rooster had his used car lot, or his car lot, across the street from Smith Crossroads Ford.
Yeah.
Well, I needed a second car because Sharon had got a job, actually her first job. She worked in Jim Broyhill's first campaign
Oh, wow.
as just a clerk doing
Yeah.
mailings and things like that. And then she went to work at the Broyhill main office. And then they moved so she was there when they moved the big one before she retired when the kids were born.
Yeah.
And then I forgot where I started on this story.
He was talking about Rooster Bush and his car lot.
I had to go buy a car.
Yeah, I had to
So
get
I
a
asked
car.
people, I said, where do you go? I said, you go buy one from Rooster Bush down there at Crossroads. Says he'll sell you a car better than anybody else in town, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where you go. So I went, talked to him. He said, I've got just what you need, a little Carmen Ghia convertible over here.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, wish I'd kept it. But anyway, it wasn't in the greatest shape, but it was all I could afford, $300 or $400, whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a 58 Carmen Ghia. And we would take that thing on weekends and explore the mountains, like drive up Edgemont, drive up all through there, went over a staircase in it. I can't remember where we went. I couldn't tell you where we came out. But if we ever got on a paved road, we were happy because we knew something would be in the
Yeah,
end.
because there was even fewer paved roads then.
Back
so,
then, right,
yeah.
but those roads would come out somewhere. And then we learned where Brown Mountain Beach was and that type of
Yeah.
thing. We just explored. And it was a fun way to spend a weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that.
But it's like you say, I mean, you had, the mountains were right here, so when I grew up, it was a Sunday drive. You just went and drove through the mountains.
That's
you know,
right,
you
and
just-
that's what later
what you
became for
did.
us, a Sunday drive.
Yeah, just a Sunday drive. And
One thing I hated, I didn't hate it, but the one thing I was disappointed that I had been a Tennessee Vol fan since I was old enough to know what football was.
Yeah.
In 1947, I think my dad took me to a game, and I was hooked.
yeah,
And listened on that radio to every game, every Saturday. The gang and I would get together. We all were, get our footballs in our helmet and sit there and listen to the games. And anyway, got over here, and I could barely get WJRI. How am I going to find a Tennessee football game on Saturday? And I got to thinking, I said, Bristol, Tennessee may carry it. So I would drive up the mountain to Blowing Rock or Boone, wherever I could, and sit and listen to that Tennessee ball game on my car radio.
Wow.
And I
That's
was
really kind of cool.
I was glad when we got cable TV.
Yeah, I know. It is.
Later on, I bought season tickets and we'd go back to the game. But
I talked to a lot of people about NASCAR, and when I was growing up, my dad was big in NASCAR, and you listened to the race. You didn't ever see it.
Right.
They didn't show the whole race on TV.
Highlights.
You know, it was highlights. It might be on Wide World of Sports.
Yeah.
But not the whole thing. And like the first time they did a whole race, I think we were all excited that they did a whole race, you know, instead of just part of it. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy how that's changed. I did work in radio for a little bit, and I can tell you that if it rained, you had a better chance of picking up the game.
You'll wet that into
it. Wet the ground, and then the signal goes further. Because we used to get complaints. I worked at a radio station, 1290 in Hickory, and we get complaints from 1290 in Tennessee.
Oh.
Because we would override their signal because we were 50,000 watts and they were smaller stations. And so they would call and complain and say, back down on the power, it's too much.
Yeah, those clear channel stations were really nice. When I growing up, to listen to music on the radio, there was a station in Nashville, Tennessee called WLAC. And they had the first rhythm and blues shows that went on with the old guys like Little Richard and, geez, you name the Clovers, the Drifters, the Midnighters. I can name them all. Laverne Baker, Faye Adams. I go way back on those. And Ruth Brown was one of my favorites. And they would put on, well, anyway, late at night, all the other stations were off and they were clear channel. And you could pick them up in Oak Ridge. And at night, that's where we had the radio set. Now, some of the kids' parents wouldn't let them listen to that music.
Oh, wow.
And so they had to hide it in their bedroom on the radio under the pillow. It was real funny. But it became the forerunner to all the rhythm and blues things. And they did concerts at a place in Knoxville called Chilhowee Park. And that's where the zoo is now, but they had a big concert area there. And they started having the concerts with the rhythm and blues. And I remember in college, we would go to see Fats Domino. We would go to see Little Richard. We would go to see that they would all on their tour and would come through there. Never got to see Elvis. He was a little later, but I wish I had now. But I never did get to see Elvis.
Yeah. I remember him playing in Charlotte, not too close before he died, maybe a couple of months before he died.
And wasn't he supposed to be in Asheville? And he died before he could come to Asheville. Something about Asheville I remember because the girls at the plant were all upset. And,
I bet.
And some of them I think they had tickets for Asheville, but anyway, my timeline may be wrong on that too, like I said. But it was about that. It was about that time. But anyway, that was interesting. Somebody asked me one time, says, Bill says, at what age do you, and I'm 88 years old, said, at what age do you mature? I said, well, let's see. I think I was about 65, and it lasts for maybe a minute and a half.
That's what my wife would say. I'm 58, and it's not took yet. So
my wife's mother used to talk to Sharon. She'd say, Bill spends more time having fun than anybody I've ever seen. But that's how you keep your wits about you. If you can't laugh at yourself or can't laugh, I don't know, it'd be a sad world.
Yeah, that's true. Now, if you guys don't know, Sharon that used to come and do the stuff for the senior center was your wife.
Right.
And that's how I met you. I've seen you in the grocery store a few times with Sharon. Yes. And but she was always so sweet to come by and talk to us about the senior center and what all they were doing, and she did that for years.
Yes, she did. So. She was the administrator, I guess, or director for 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
And she was there before that doing the job that Cindy had.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll tell you the story. When our first son, Chris, was born, Sharon said that, I think do you earn enough money that I can quit work and we can raise our children? I said, well, it'll be tough, but yeah, sure. I think we can do that. We should do that.
Yeah.
So Chris came along, and then later Claire came along. And when they were maybe 16, Chris was 18 or 19, Claire was maybe 16, 15, somewhere in that age, we decided that, or she decided she was getting a little bored being at home, so they were starting a senior center. Some of the people, I think Alden Starnes may have been one of them. I can't remember all of them. Ron Winkler, Parsons. No one Parsons. Anyway, I can't think of the names. They were all.
Yeah, of all the folks involved.
Percy, somebody. They got together, and Sharon volunteered to keep their books for them while they were collecting money, seeing people, and she did it as a volunteer. Then later they hired her to work 3 or 4 hours a week to do that because it got big and they started the building. And then when that happened, asked her if she wanted to be the director. She didn't. And she said, but I'd love to work part-time. So they did hire a director, and Sharon became part-time and worked 24 hours a week or something like that. And then as it grew and things grown, another director came along, and then Sharon moved up to 40 hours a week. And then when the next director took another job somewhere, the board came and said, Sharon, we want you to be the director. She says, well, you've done it now for 5 or 6 years. And so I had to convince her that you can do that.
Yeah, you can do that. And
she did, and she was very good at it.
Oh yeah, she was excellent at it.
And so she did that till she retired.
Yeah.
And now she retired. That's funny, because she had the benefits, but we had to both get into 65 or so we could get the insurance and all. But anyway, working there, she had the benefits. So I was getting bored. I had retired at 65, and I really was bored. Played golf every day. Played some gin rummy every afternoon or something. Ran home before she got home to get stuff straightened out the house.
Yeah.
You know how that works. Well, and I really was bored. So I said, I wonder if I could go back to school. So I went out to Caldwell Tech, talked to Janice Van Osdal a little, and she said, Bill, I said, you've got a degree. I said, what do you want to study? I said, why not accounting? That was the hardest subject. They made us engineers take a year of accounting, which was the hardest thing in the world to understand debits and credits. It wasn't calculus. It wasn't differential calculus.
Yeah.
It was, and it wasn't even arithmetic, hardly. It was basically debits and credits. I mean, and getting all that stuff. So I said, I had to take one course to graduate in college because I put it off, and that was cost accounting. And I had to take it my very last senior year course and pass it. So I did, and I passed it, barely. And I said, I want to go back to Caldwell Tech, and I want to study accounting. So, okay. So Ken Boham was the chancellor now, whatever they call it now. Anyway, so I talked to him a little bit about it. He laughed, said, you are going to come? I said, sure. So I went back to school. And then I found out that then the state paid your tuition if you're over 65.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget about that. Yeah.
So all I had to do was buy books. And I said, and by then I knew how to study.
Yeah.
And so accounting, well, this is not that hard. And I studied accounting, and I did the homework, and then pretty soon the people in the other young students were coming to me for help.
Well, cool.
Especially in the second year.
Yeah.
And I made straight A's in it. It wasn't that hard because after you've worked for 30 years, costing and doing as a manager, you understand figures, budgets, and all that.
Yeah.
So cost accounting was really easy. Really hard in college, but it was really easy this time. So
You'd had a life of learning that, though, you know, from the other side of manufacturing and doing that.
Exactly right. And I always thought, and I remember freshman year accounting, I thought I was, I was making 95s and 98s, 100s on these things. And I thought, boy, I tell you, that you're doing good in this. And the kids, but there was a girl sitting a couple of seats over from me who made 100 on every. And I thought, that's the smartest girl. Wrote neat. This lady, it was a lady, and her name was Michelle. And guess what? Now she owns Anything Office down here.
Oh, okay,
She quit. I don't think she went, but for the 1 year, and they bought. I don't know if it was her husband, whoever it was, but she was extremely smart in accounting, and I knew she would go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I get out. I got 2 years of accounting in. And Steve Huntley calls me. We'd been playing a lot of golf together, and he said, Bill, I need somebody that can work part-time and can do a little traveling. I said, well, I think I can do that. I said, yeah, I need a part-time would be wonderful. I said, especially during tax season. So I learned to do audits and became sort of a tax accountant and worked part-time most of the time. But all of a sudden, in tax season, part-time becomes 45, 50 hours a week.
Yeah, it becomes overtime.
Anyway, but I worked for Steve till I was 85 years old.
Wow.
And it was a perfect job. Of course, he sold it now. He and Renee, they sold a partnership. And I'm not sure. She's opened up her office out on the highway, and Steve is working for the new people. But anyway, it was fun working. Like I said, perfect job. When I was working part-time, in the summers you didn't even have much work to do until audit season. You'd be off all summer. And during audit season, sometimes you'd work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Wow.
So that was the kind of job that
that's a good job.
Like.
That's a good job.
Anyway, so I ended up
get a little money,
enjoyed it. Yeah, it paid a lot of bills, and
there you go,
and kept me out of trouble.
But now you were talking about going to Tennessee. So you were a volunteer technically.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't. You were saying you followed the volunteers,
No,
but
no.
you are a volunteer.
Oh, yeah, I was my blood ran orange.
Yeah. Now we toured with my daughter. She wanted to go there, and we toured,
really?
and she could get a free ride from the state here.
Oh.
So she didn't go. So she was like, "Do I want to owe them the equivalent of a house, or do I want to get out, or do I want to stay in North Carolina?" And she cried about it.
Yeah.
It took a little bit. She cried. But she really did enjoy the campus when we went there and looked.
Yeah, my son went to Appalachian, graduated from there. He went to High Brighton High School, and he's probably close to your age. He's 56, 57 years old, 57, I think.
Yeah.
And my daughter went to Carolina, and she stayed there, met her husband there ever since. She teaches third grade in Chapel Hill.
Oh, cool.
And she's got 29 years in.
Oh,
and
wow.
is counting down.
Oh, I bet.
She said, you know, that's enough. Says, next year's second grade coming up is the worst behaved students we've ever had in this school. And I just can imagine, says, and I don't have to do this anymore. Said, I've enjoyed it, it's been fun, but I'm retiring.
But she sees what's on the horizon.
She said, yeah, you know, her age. She said, her and her husband wanted to do more things. And I said, well, Claire, let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get bored. And she says, well, no. She says, I've lined up a job with a private school where our son went that as a teacher's aide. Said it pays a good hourly rate, and I can work 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day, and be off all afternoon. And if I want to tutor, I can tutor. Says there'll be so many things I can do if I want to do.
Yeah.
Said, so retiring from an everyday teacher's job, I think is what she said. I think most teachers, that's what they look forward to, is the day they can retire.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But anyway, she's had a good time with it.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I appreciate you coming by and talking to me about your life and different things. And this is, like I say, this is part of the America 250, and we're talking about all the things that, people are on local history, local people that are here, that got here as quick as they could.
Got here, yeah, absolutely. It was a long drive over that mountain.
As long, yeah. Back then, that was when 321 was 2 lanes, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So I remember my grandfather was not doing well, and he was close to passing away, and he was like, "Have they finished 321 with Boone yet?" And I'm like, "No." Not yet.
Gosh, we used to come down that mountain from the furniture markets. I mean,
yeah,
geez, everybody would drive 60, 65, whatever, down that 2-lane road, and it surprised everybody when it 4-lane, everybody says yes, and it's a 50-mile speed limit, and you don't dare speed on it. So.
No, you don't dare. And but I remember taking some of those corners on 2 wheels with my dad. So I remember that. But we appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. And anytime you want to come back and talk, we'd be happy to have you.
Well, I appreciate that.
So it's nice to meet you. And I mean, I mentioned you in general, but we've never got to sit and talk. And,
it was fun.
We'll get those couple of beers and go over stuff some more.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me, Eric.
All right. It's so nice to meet you. And thank you guys for watching. And I hope you participate in something with the 250 for this year. And I hope you have a great time doing that. Thanks, and have a great day.